Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this Carbon Trust webinar today on our exciting new Zero Waste to Landfill certification. There's a lot of you on the line today, we're delighted to see. So let's just do a little bit of an introduction. If we flip over the slide. So what have we got for you today? Well, I'm Jamie Plotnick. I will be your host today for the webinar. I work in the communications team here at the Carbon Trust. And with us today, we have got John Newton. He is an associate director on our certification team. He'll be providing a bit of an intro on things. We have got Matthias Lucas and Sarah Laidler. They are technical experts on our certification team that have both been working on developing our Zero Waste to Landfill certification. And in the corner of the room, we have got sitting Martin Hockaday, who is also an expert on our certification team, and he's just here in case any tricky questions come up at the end. Now, before we get kicking off, we're going to have presentations of roughly 35 to 40 minutes. Now, a little bit of housekeeping for you here. There's a lot of you on the line. There is a Q&A box in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. If at any time throughout the webinar you have a question that you want to ask, just type it in there and then into the Q&A box. We will come to those questions. We'll have about 10 minutes at the end of the webinar to come to your questions. What I will do is I'll put those questions verbally to the panelists, and I will then be able to group similar questions, ask the most appropriate person about them, make sure that we're answering things. Although, of course, we will, if you do have any burning questions that don't get answered, there will be contact details at the end of the webinar again, and please do get in touch with us. We're very happy to discuss with you your zero waste to landfill questions. And with that done, just for a bit of fun, we've got a couple of poll questions which we'd like to ask you before we kick into the main presentation. So we'll give you a few seconds to answer those. Question one coming up now. So question one, where are you or your organisation in the process of actively diverting your waste from landfill? Are you not intending to do it? Are you interested but don't know where to start? Are you thinking about it currently, or have you made a commitment? Are you in the process of implementing it, or have you already achieved but not yet certified zero waste to landfill? That's question one. Just give you a little time to answer that. We'll see the answers coming in, and we'll provide the answer to this towards the back end of the webinar, keep you on the hook. Very good. Now we'll switch to question two. Question two. Where does zero waste to landfill fit into your sustainability strategy? Is it absolutely imperative, very useful, a nice to have, somewhat important, or not at all important? I bet you're as excited as we are to see the answers coming in at the end. So I will in a moment be handing over to John Newton, and he is going to be giving you a bit of an introduction to the Carbon Trust, what we do on certification, and how and why we came to be developing a zero waste to landfill certification, before handing over to Matt and Sarah, who will take you through some of the more technical details. As I mentioned, Q&A box in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Tap them in when you've got them, and we'll come to them in about 10 minutes at the end of the webinar. And with that done, let's hand over. John, are you on the line?
Yes, thank you very much, Jamie. So I'm going to set the context by giving a very brief overview of the Carbon Trust firstly, and thereafter I'm going to introduce the Zero Waste to Landfill certification. So the Carbon Trust was founded about 15 years ago, and our mission is to accelerate the move to a sustainable low-carbon economy. And to deliver on our mission, we principally provide three things. The first is that we advise to governments, public sector organizations, and companies. Advice is predominantly focused on maximizing resource efficiency and minimizing environmental impact. The second thing we do is that we measure and certify. We're able to measure environmental footprints of an organization's own operations and its products and services, as well as its supply chain. And we're also able to certify these footprints and provide assurance of environmental claims. And this is important because it enables organizations to communicate their environmental performance with credibility. Thirdly, we develop and deploy low-carbon technologies. So we develop and deploy low-carbon technologies, we help bring low-carbon technologies to market, and we also identify opportunities within organizations and match the appropriate low carbon technologies with these identified needs. Next slide, please. So the main topic for today is actually the Zero Waste to Landfill certification, which is in fact an extension of the Carbon Trust Waste Standard. And many of you are familiar with the Carbon Trust Standard, which in its initial form in 2008 certified organizations and enabled them to show that they were managing their carbon emissions responsibly. Today, we can certify organizations to the Triple Standard, which is a certification that's awarded to organizations that can demonstrate they're measuring, managing, and reducing their environmental impacts in carbon, water, and waste. Recently, we've seen a plethora of zero waste to landfill claims being made by companies. Some of these claims are credible, but others not so much. And we therefore saw a need to develop a certification that would enable organizations to make credible and independently endorsed zero waste to landfill claims. And to do this, we built on the methodologies of the well-established Carbon Trust Waste Standard. So what exactly is the methodology and approach to zero waste to landfill certification? I'm going to hand over to my colleague Matthias and Sarah, who will explain this in more detail. And then after their overview, I'm going to cover the benefits of certification with you. Matthias.
Yeah, thank you, John. Hello, everyone, and thank you for taking part in today's webinar. I'm sure a lot of you are wondering how the Carbon Trust came to be involved in the zero waste to landfill area. So the first thing I'll talk about is the history and development of the zero waste to landfill standard. So it all started about 3 years ago when the Carbon Trust launched the Waste Standard, which is a certification that recognizes companies for reducing their waste year on year. Now, that standard proved to be very successful, and dozens of companies, including some large ones, have signed up for it since then. Some notable recent certifications include the likes of Telefonica, Bentley, Scottish Government, Royal Mail, Selfridges, and Go Ahead. Now, the Carbon Trust Waste Standard is built on the same framework as our other standards, and in order to achieve it, applicants are required to measure, manage, and reduce their waste year on year. Now, since the launch of that certification, we have continued to conduct research, and we've refined the requirements of the waste standard to ensure that it continues to be market leading. During this time, we also realized that there's an appetite in the market, certainly from our clients, for an independent third-party certification for zero waste to landfill claims. Many of our existing clients were claiming to have already achieved zero waste to landfill, and we also became aware of other companies that we weren't currently working with who have made this achievement but didn't have that important third-party recognition. So in a nutshell, there was an important achievement that companies were seeking certification for, that we had the expertise in, but weren't covering at the time. So this was really the main driver for the development of the zero waste to landfill standard. During the summer of last year, once we got the go-ahead for developing the new product, we spent several months researching definitions of zero waste to landfill, potential methodologies, and working out how we could use our experience and expertise and apply it to create the new service. So it was very important for us that the new standard, like our other standards, is robust, workable, and above all, transparent in what it does and what it does not do. Naturally, we also wanted to ensure that the new service was in line with Carbon Trust mission, which, as John already mentioned, is to accelerate the move to a sustainable low-carbon economy. So what is Carbon Trust's approach to zero waste to landfill claims? Well, as with other environmental assertions, zero waste to landfill claims can differ both in terms of their scope and transparency. So certification bodies or companies claiming to be zero waste to landfill will all have different expectations about the amount of waste that should be diverted from landfill before making zero waste to landfill claims. Similarly, we came across many different definitions of zero waste to landfill, which range from flexible to strict. So this was another area that we had to think carefully about when writing the standard. So first and foremost, just to clarify, the standard is not a zero waste standard. So the concept of zero waste is related to the circular economy, but the term has sometimes been used interchangeably with the concept of zero waste to landfill, which is incorrect. Zero waste, at its most basic, is about reducing and eventually completely eliminating the amount of materials that we throw out. It's also about using less items that are disposable and redesigning products so they are made to last. Now, The waste hierarchy, pictured on the top left of the slide, is a guide to sustainable waste management, and it's also a legal requirement in the EU Waste Framework Directive. It lays down an order of what constitutes the best overall environmental option for managing waste. So if we look at the hierarchy, the idea of zero waste is to continually move up waste along the order, whereas our zero waste landfill standard focuses entirely on certifying that your company has diverted its waste from landfill, as it's mentioned in the definition on the bottom of the slide. Now, the boundaries of the zero waste landfill definition end at the point where a waste contractor accepts the waste. This means that waste that is generated and landfilled as a result of a recycling process is not considered to be the applicant's waste. Also, residual waste from processing, like the bottom ash from incineration, which is the pile of gray stuff pictured on the slide, is not part of the zero waste landfill definition. The reason for this is that our research shows that it would be impossible to ever achieve zero waste landfill for many organizations if these downstream residues were included in the definition. And limiting the boundary to the waste contractor's gate is a pragmatic, widely accepted approach. And one advantage of developing and applying a standardized, publicly available methodology to environmental claims like this one is that everyone knows exactly what achievement others were certified for, and it levels the playing field. So although the standard focuses on avoiding landfill, we do recognize that the circular economy and zero waste concepts are something that all companies, especially those that have been doing this for a while, should be striving for. So we don't just want companies to achieve zero waste landfill and stop there, but it's definitely an important step for organizations when it comes to improving their waste management and reducing their environmental impact. So if you are interested in a standard that is more in line with the concepts of zero waste, then please do get in touch with us about the waste standard that I mentioned in the introduction, as this standard is awarded to companies that either continually reduce their waste or move waste up the hierarchy year on year. So if you're wondering what some of your specific options are when it comes to diverting waste from landfill, the good news is that there are plenty. As I briefly touched on earlier, the most favorable option when it comes to waste management is to reduce the waste that you generate in the first place. So this saves you money because you don't have to buy as much and you don't have to pay to get rid of as much. And of course, there's the environmental benefit of using less resources. But if you have some waste left, you couldn't reduce all your waste, which is a likely scenario, then the next thing you should consider is whether you could reuse any of this waste before sending it away with a waste contractor. So there are many examples of ways that companies reuse their waste, but two that I included on the slide are furniture and IT waste. So after office refurbishments, for example, instead of sending unwanted items to a contractor, you should consider donating desks, chairs, and such like to a charity. Same with IT waste. Following replacement of older equipment, many companies give away unwanted computers, monitors, and laptops to charities, or allow their employees to take these home with them free of charge. There are also many companies out there who will take your IT waste, refurbish it, and sell these on. This is quite a big marketplace. Next, if you've reused everything that you possibly could, the next best alternative to landfilling for most waste types is recycling, provided, of course, that facilities exist reasonably nearby. Aluminium foil and trays, cardboard, paper, plastic bottles, these are all recyclable as long as they are not contaminated. Clean cardboard, for instance, is usually recyclable, but it's always a good idea to speak to your packaging companies and ask them to confirm this and place that recycling label on packaging. Plastic bottles are also recyclable, but these should be rinsed and emptied because liquids can contaminate other recyclable waste, and also the extra weight from the liquids in the bottles may prevent them from being pushed into the correct recycling stream at automated sorting facilities. The final step on the waste hierarchy is recovery, which includes things like anaerobic digestion for food waste, as well as incineration with energy recovery for other wastes. So anaerobic digestion, commonly called AD, it's easier to say, takes our food waste and turns it into energy using a series of processes in which biodegradable material is broken down in the absence of oxygen. One of the end products of this process is biogas, which is combusted to generate electricity and heat, or it can be processed into renewable natural gas and fuels. It is also common for mixed municipal waste to go to an energy from waste plant, which incinerates the waste and produces energy in the process. Again, sending waste either to AE or incineration with energy recovery is subject to these facilities existing somewhere reasonably close to your sites. One last thing I wanted to mention here is that the Carbon Trust has a very pragmatic, collaborative approach to helping companies manage their waste in a sustainable manner. If you have any questions or are looking for advice on your waste management options, we'd be more than happy to either talk to you about it or put you in touch with other organizations if they are in a better position to help. Over to you, Sarah.
Thank you, Matthias. Good morning, everyone. For this slide, we're going to look at some of the key steps which the Carbon Trust have highlighted as essential in order to attain zero waste to landfill. Later on, we'll look at examples of companies who have achieved zero waste to landfill and look at specific ways in which they've reduced and diverted their own waste. So if we jump straight in with the first step, measuring your waste is the first step to achieve that robust waste management framework everybody desires. The total amount of waste in your organisation in a year can become your benchmark figure, and from this figure it's possible to measure progress and accurately determine the percentages of waste diverted from landfill. It can also help highlight any significant reductions in waste production over time, which can be used in sustainable reports and to measure your progress on a longer term. Next is identify. In this step, you review your waste streams and how the materials are being disposed of. It's a key step which allows your organisation to focus on improvement areas in waste streams and where waste is being disposed of in a landfill. It's important from this step, you can look at alternatives for these materials and these specific waste streams. This brings us nicely into the manage step. This is where the waste hierarchy is, as previously mentioned in Matthias' slide, is facilitated. It's a step in which your organisation can focus on how best to reduce your waste being sent to landfill. The hierarchy itself is an attempt to order waste management options into a preferential scale and underpin the development of waste strategies which are embedded into your organisation from that point on. Next is collaboration. This refers to working with a base of reputable waste contractors, which is a very vital step for success. Choosing a trusted waste contractor provides your organisation with the support you need to achieve a zero waste to landfill target. And last but not least is an engaged employee base. It's no less essential than all of the above. As previously mentioned, it's vital to sort waste and ensure it's fit for recycling, so understanding the importance of waste sorting will be needed in an employee base if an organisation wishes to fulfil the goal of zero waste to landfill. It's almost a culture change of your organisation. If your whole organisation sees waste as a resource, it's less likely to be produced or squandered by your employees. To sum up on this slide, it's always important when the cycle is complete to do a repetition, just to ensure that all the initiatives that you've taken are fruitful. This also places your organisation in a continual improvement headspace almost, that you're working towards a circular economy. It can also help introduce new waste management initiatives where possible should you redo the cycle and constantly improve. So, excuse me, achieving zero waste to landfill makes good business sense for organisations considering it being sustainable in their future. Prior to the Carbon Trust launching the Standard for Zero Waste to Landfill, big companies such as Unilever, Coca-Cola European Partners, and Sainsbury's have all promoted their targets of becoming zero waste to landfill on websites and various articles. They all primarily highlight the importance of the waste hierarchy at the heart of their operations, which is interesting. They're all key examples of how large organisations with many waste streams can modify their operations to become zero waste to landfill. It also shows a shift in attitudes towards waste, as more businesses now are seeing waste as a resource and an opportunity to save money and generate tangible economic returns in addition to their sustainability strategies. So if we jump in with the first example, Unilever, they use a 4R tiered approach, which we previously covered, but it was reduce, reuse, recycle and recover, in order to achieve zero waste to landfill in over 600 sites around the world, which was quite impressive. The initiatives that they implemented were things such as packaging redesign, converting factory waste to building materials, which helped save the company a significant amount of disposal costs. In order to get this success, Unilever stated that a key part of this was employee engagement, more specifically communicating the zero waste to landfill vision and asking for all staff ideas about how this should be achieved. This helped develop a network and swap waste management solutions internally. Another great example is Coca-Cola European Partners. This has an ambitious commitment to recover the equivalent of all packaging by 2020. In doing this, they want to move towards more recyclable and reusable materials within this. As part of the commitment, the company has already achieved a zero waste to landfill status. They achieved that in 2011 by focusing on source segregation, raising staff awareness, measure, manage, track and publish information about their ongoing performance. This is a fantastic example of covering all 5 steps, as in the previous slide. And finally, we move to Sainsbury's. They have equally set an ambitious commitment for their 2020 sustainability plan, in which they have 20 sustainable targets to achieve by 2020, obviously. So through collaborating with their waste contractor and using advanced anaerobic digester facilities, there's actually a store, Sainsbury's Cannock store, which is powered by electricity generated from food waste across the Sainsbury's stores in the UK. They've also gone above and beyond this and worked upstream and downstream of their operations. In an attempt to reduce waste at the beginning of their supply chain, they introduced the Ugly Veg campaign, in which vegetables that are misshapen can be resold in bags where image isn't necessarily priority sold for soups, casseroles, that sort of thing. They also introduced a Love Your Leftovers campaign, which encourages customers to reduce and divert waste within their own household. So they are then spreading this message of a circular economy on a wider scale. These are all fantastic examples of how organisations have changed their operational management to embed zero waste to landfill in their sustainability strategy and their organisation. They're not only combating waste being sent to landfill, but they're also preventing the associated greenhouse gas emissions landfills can produce. So on that note, I'll hand you back over to Matthias.
Thank you very much, Sarah. So if you, based on what we've covered so far, if you think you've achieved zero waste to landfill status and want to start collecting evidence and make a claim that can be certified by the Carbon Trust, and you should be able to show that you've been collecting information about your waste risings both internally and from your waste contractors for some time. This is really important. Your records should include all of your waste types by weight and treatment. For example, it should indicate that you send all of your cardboard waste to recycling and all of your food waste to anaerobic digestion, should this be the case. A common way of tracking waste types is by classifying them under general headings such as glass, paper, cardboard, wood, etc. But legally, these should be recorded in line with the European Waste Catalogue, which contains a breakdown of around 800 different waste types. Each waste type is given a unique 6-digit code, thereby standardizing the classification of waste across the European Union. Anyway, having a consolidated waste list will help you measure your waste, and it will give you a chance to not miss anything and improve your management practices going forward. In order to support your claim, you should also collate a list of all of your current waste contractors who are responsible for removing waste from your sites. This will enable you to see all of the companies you are working with and keep track of them, as well as you'll be able to tell who's in charge of removing which waste types, so you can query any anomalies and get in touch with the right people should there be any issues. Another way of supporting your claim is through showing that your company has signed a zero waste to landfill contract with its waste management company. So this type of an agreement essentially guarantees that all the waste that is taken away from your sites is picked up to be diverted from landfill. But of course, companies that do have these types of contracts in place should still engage their waste contractors and track waste on an ongoing basis to identify opportunities to further improve their waste management. Last but not least, if there is no explicit zero waste to landfill contract in place, then your waste contractor should still be able to confirm that all of the waste that they are responsible for is picked up to be diverted. These are typically in the form of written statements or certificates of recycling. Um, Now that I explained in a bit more detail about the definition of zero waste to landfill, our approach, and how you can demonstrate compliance, I wanted to briefly talk about the certification cycle, which is a tried and tested approach that is very similar to what we applied with our other standards. So if you're interested in being a standard bearer, then the first thing you should do is get in touch with us and speak to one of our client managers who will explain to you everything you need to know about the standard in detail. Should you choose to sign up, you'll be allocated a Carbon Trust expert assessor who will look at your waste data and conduct checks to see if your organization is in fact zero waste to landfill or not. This initial part of the assessment will be conducted remotely. Depending on how many sites you're applying with, there will also be at least one face-to-face visit during which the assessor will review some of your data on site and see how waste is managed in practice. Provided that everything checks out, you'll be officially certified by the Carbon Trust as sending zero waste to landfill, and you'll be given the right to use the zero waste to landfill logo for 2 years. You will also receive a certification letter and a certificate, which you can display in your offices or factories. 1 year after becoming certified, a Carbon Trust assessor will get in touch with you and ask to conduct a remote check of your current waste data to ensure that you are still not sending any waste to landfill. If you're not, then you're good to go, and you have another year left in your certification before you have to apply for renewal. And that is all from me.
Great, thank you very much, Matthias. So during this last section, I want to just set out the reasons why certification is important, and then generally explain the particular benefits of the zero waste to landfill certification. So I spoke previously about the importance of making credible environmental claims, and we of course operate in an environment where customers are growing more sophisticated over time. At the Carbon Trust, our experience based on feedback from consumers, which is incidentally backed up by this Ipsos Mori research, is that 4 out of 5 consumers say, "I don't think it's good enough for companies to say they're responsible. They need to prove it to me." So this, of course, has important implications if you're providing goods and services directly to consumers. However, it's even more important if you're working with B2B customers, because professional buyers are even more demanding and are looking for verifiable and independently endorsed claims. And this is really where certification and independent assurance of environmental claims can help. So how does this apply to the zero waste to landfill certification? At its core, the most compelling thing about the certification is that it enables your organization to make a credible and robust zero waste to landfill claim which has been independently endorsed. And this is an essential aid to communication to any of your stakeholders. All the other benefits really are effectively a bonus, and they can be categorized really into 3 themes: reputation, efficiency, and compliance. There are significant reputational benefits of being certified to a recognized standard. The Carbon Trust is certainly very well known, and over the years we've carried out over 1,500 certifications in various forms. So having the certification, the zero waste landfill certification, demonstrates your commitment to the environment and sends a positive message that you are diverting all of your waste from landfill. It also leads organizations and raises awareness of this important issue, and it's a great way to really differentiate your company from your competitors. The second point is about efficiency, and there's obviously a financial efficiency gain by avoiding landfill tax, but of course there's also a resource efficiency gain. By diverting landfill waste, you're effectively turning waste into a resource. And of course, as Matt has talked about, once you're certified, there's a regular check-in process which helps keep your organization on track. The third point is about compliance, and I'm not really referring to legal compliance in this case because there are no current laws preventing you from sending waste to landfill. However, it's not inconceivable that this may happen at some point in the future because of just the constraints to both land and resource availability. But I think more important to this point, compliance here really refers to meeting procurement requirements of your customers, winning tenders, winning contracts, and essentially winning more customers. So I suppose I'd say in summary there's a lot of attention being paid to diverting waste from landfill, and there are also lots of organizations making claims. So it's really important if you're planning to make your zero waste to landfill claims public, you're able to robustly defend that claim in the face of challenges. And certification and independent assurance of that claim can help with this. And it's exactly why the Zero Waste Landfill certification was designed, and it's exactly what it is designed to do. Thank you. I'm going to hand this over back to Jamie.
John, thank you. And prior to John, thank you, Matches, and thank you, Sarah. So, we're going to come to the poll results, and let's pop those up on the screen at the moment. So, when we asked, where are you in the process of actively diverting your waste from landfill? Well, it's a positive story. Not a lot of you are complete, but a lot of you are interested. 20% are interested but don't know where to start. 24% are thinking about it or have made a commitment. And 35%, that's a great number, are in the process of implementing it as we speak. If we hop across to question 2, where does zero waste to landfill fit in your sustainability strategy? Well, 29%, absolutely imperative. 35% very useful, 26% nice to have. It's all a very positive story amongst the over 150 of you on the webinar today, and thank you to the 79% of you that voted on these questions. So, please do get in touch. Contact details are there. If you already have an account manager at the Carbon Trust, get directly in touch. Otherwise, get generically in touch and we will get back to you as quickly as humanly possible. Thank you all for joining us today. I'd like to thank finally our panelists, Matches Lucas, Sarah Laidler, John Newton, and answering on asbestos, Martin Hockaday. I've been Jamie Plotnick. Thank you all, and if you want to keep abreast of future Carbon Trust webinars, please look on our events page on the Carbon Trust website. Thank you all, and goodbye.